Hello everyone and welcome to episode 71 of the PE Geek Podcast, and as always, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Now, these are my favourite episodes, particularly when we get a chance to interview Aussie PhysED folk, and today's no different. We've got Arron Gardiner. How are you, Arron?
Good, thank you, Jared. Just appreciate being here and being given the opportunity to have a good old-fashioned talk to you.
Yeah, man, I thank you for coming on. And whereabouts are you joining us from?
So I'm down in Geelong, little estate called Armstrong Creek, just outside of Geelong, very close to the beach, and very quiet down here. It's lovely.
So I'm guessing, based on the proximity to the beach, that you've always had this sort of appreciation with the outdoors and being, in nature and doing a bit of sport. Would that be true?
That would be true. That would be true. I've been very lucky coming from a family who has very, very much sport orientated, but very much probably had a bit of a draw to the ocean. My dad and my brother. So it was only sort of we didn't live close to the ocean as kids, but we were always down there. And met my beautiful wife down this way. So she's from down this way, and it was only natural that we were eventually going to end up here. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Geelong's a pretty impressive place. If you're listening and you've never been into the lovely place of Geelong, you should. I mean, I barrack for the Geelong Cats, so there's another real reason why I say that. But what about yourself? I mean, have you been always, teaching in that area, or have you moved around a little bit?
Yeah, no, I've moved around a little bit. So look, I started in Warrnambool, and I went to university down in Warrnambool, and I met my wife down there. So she was teaching at a school called Merivale Primary School down there. Mm-hmm. So I actually got the opportunity to spend a lot of time in the school. Being a uni student, I spent a lot of time running their after-school Blue Earth programs.
Yes.
And that's probably where the love of PhysEd really, and wanting to teach PhysEd, the basis formed. So that's where it all began for me. I had, when I was 20, I did manage to go overseas to London, and I spent a week in a school over there. I spent 6 months over there just doing some trade work, and I met just one of my best friend's sisters was teaching at a school over there, and that was my initial first introduction to teaching. And when I decided when I got back from London that I would try and get back into uni and do teaching. So that's where it initially started. But the love of PE probably came from running these after-school programs at my wife's school. Yeah,
it's fascinating. I mean, so many people got different journeys to how they end up in the classroom. They're all quite unique in many ways. And I mean, can you trace yours back even further to when you were a student? Do you feel like that was one of your subjects that you were really passionate about?
Absolutely. And if my mother and father were to pull out my old reports, they would be the comments you'd probably be reading that, Arron was always more attentive in PE than he ever was in the classroom. So
yeah. I mean, why? Why do you think this PhysEd, subject that we both love, has this appeal with students? I mean, what do you think the reason is?
It is. It's just it's the competitiveness, and I know we like to tend to steer away from the competitiveness these days, but
life's competitive, isn't it?
Life's competitive, absolutely. It is. Probably the biggest thing that I have issues with at my school at the moment, and the resilience that the kids don't come into school with. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly like you said, life's competitive, and we need to be building this resilience with these kids for future life. So, but yeah, just the love of outdoors, mate. My family's always been an outdoor family, so without a doubt, I had an absolutely fantastic PE teacher who went on to be a principal. And yeah, he just probably started the love of it for me.
Yeah, it's very similar to myself. A good PhysEd teacher that sort of had been recognised by the PhysEd teacher as having, some skills in particular sports. And it was through that a lot of like the learning in other subjects would flow, which I find to be quite true of students I teach as well.
Absolutely.
It's like a gateway sometimes to open up their potential. So, I think it's fascinating. And, obviously along the way you've sort of got interested in the use of technology in your practice. Do you remember how that all started?
Oh, to be brutally, see, PhysEd's not something I've always done. So I went over to London with my wife straight out of university and spent 2 years teaching over there, and was lucky enough to actually pick up a head of PE department job straight out of university.
That's amazing.
Yeah, lovely little school called Sandringham Primary School. and worked there for 2 years running their phys ed department with two phys ed teachers underneath me, and had a ball over there. And that probably set the foundations. There was no ICT in that school there whatsoever. And we slowly built up over the 2 years, got back here to Geelong and could not get a PE job for the life of me. So ended up in the classroom for close to 6 years here. And that's really where the love, I mean, I've always had a love of ICT, but the love of ICT was built there and using it with the kids. And the Victorian government brought out an initiative in my first year back in Geelong where every Year 5 student was given a free laptop.
Yeah.
So it really built on from there. The work we were able to do in that first 2 years with the kids and the laptops they were given by the government was just sensational. And yeah, eventually got into the PE side of things and met my good friend and mentor, Andy Hare. Mm-hmm. And for those that know Andy know that he's a big advocate for ICT in PE. And he just asked me to do a little project with him, and it's just built on from there. We've gone from what we would say strength to strength with just building ourselves a little website and incorporating as much ICT as we can in a meaningful way in our classroom. So yeah, it's been fantastic. It's been a steep learning curve though, Jared, that's for sure.
Awesome. I mean, very similar pathways. I do remember the rollout of those machines to the Year 5 students that happened to my school as well. And it was nice to be able to have a guaranteed list of tools that you could use and then look at ways in which that you could implement and use them meaningfully. So very similar pathways there. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. So what over the time, what sort of tools have you found to be quite useful for that meaningful use of technology? Yeah,
so look, my school's probably gone down the path of the portable devices at the moment. So
it's a recurring theme globally too. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
It's not just happening here in Oz, it's happening all over. Mobile devices for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So those iPads and just giving the kids the opportunity. So this year with my 5 or 6 students, we've really tried hard to develop a portfolio for them to have something to actually take home and share.
Tangible thing,
yeah, absolutely. That their parents can access at any time. So we've been using SeeSaw this year.
Amazing! How crazy, powerful.
Phenomenal, but just being able to incorporate things into SeeSaw. So we've had a big focus on Padlet. I know again Andy Vassley and Andy Hare did an amazing project on Padlet. It must have been about 18 months ago, where Andy Vassley was in Nanjing and Andy Hare was at Leopold Primary School, and they were teaching side by side a striking and fielding unit, I believe it was. It was an invasion games unit, mm-hmm. And the power in that was phenomenal. So I just set myself a target this year to make sure that, that's the path we were taking. And so my kids we probably haven't been collaborating with schools in that depth as such, but my kids have been collaborating through class to class, and it's just been phenomenal. And the feedback from the parents and from the staff at my school has been sensational. So more importantly, the feedback from the kids.
Yeah.
The feedback from the kids and the learning that they're able to express through their reflection, and everything has been phenomenal. So, yeah, big steps.
Yeah, lots of opportunity. I mean, I love how you mentioned the parent buy-in and like the other classroom teachers buy-in, because, I mean, I think that's something that can be hard to do in a phys ed context. Not all schools look favourably upon phys ed, and that's unfortunate, but these tools can be used to buy in some of those core stakeholders. And you mentioned that, like the parents. Do you mean talking about SeeSaw, or is that where they've sort of?
Yeah, so they're able to access the kids' SeeSaw. So we've been able to send them home. Basically, the parents can get on and register, and they get their own password, and they're able to then access it from home. But they can only view their child's work. Which is brilliant, and
absolute gateway into what you're doing, and it advocates for why it's valuable and so many reasons. It's awesome.
Absolutely, and it's a funny point that you mentioned. Yeah, the buy-in from the parents, and look, at my school, we haven't had a sensational run with PE teachers before I took over, and I say that in the nicest possible way, but I like to say that PE was being taught maybe in an old school sense, that it was a pick a sport, teach a skill of that sport, and the kids, there wasn't a lot of buy-in from the kids. and we sort of changed it up a little bit and trying to give the kids that idea that there's a lot more thinking. That deep level thinking in PE is so important.
Yeah.
We're running a new values education. I run a thing called the Mick Fanning Factor, and being a surf coast town, and the kids really have a draw to the ocean. I just picked a sportsman that really resonated with me, but I knew that would resonate with the kids. So obviously, those that know Mick Fanning know the sort of the troubles he's been through in the last 12 months. So we picked him, and we discussed the values that Mick Fanning has shown in the last 18 months of his life and throughout his surfing career. And yeah, we've got 6 values that we run off in a PE class that match up with our school values. And
love it. It's such a good idea.
Mate, the buy-in from the parents on that one has been phenomenal. So I run my school events now, and we run house points based on the values that the kids are showing, and the feedback and the buy-in from the parents has been just insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's tremendous value system driven sort of education rather than just skills and balls and
absolutely
and using those values to sort of be the proxy for things that happen. So yeah, I mean that's some exciting stuff. I mean, along the way you've sure to have made a few mistakes.
Absolutely. My first year of teaching PhysED was an absolute nightmare, and I really even coming back. So I taught in London, thought I'd made some real good progress. Got back, taught in the classroom, was given the opportunity to teach PE at my school here in Geelong. And to be honest, the first year I would like to write off. I met Andy Hare late in that year, and he was a godsend. I guess I taught PE the way it used to be taught to me, and I think we've progressed from that. I haven't been at school for 20 years, and I think we can offer the kids a lot more than what I was offered at school. And not that my PE teacher didn't. My PE teacher was amazing, and you can only work with the resources you're given and where you are, I guess, in life at that time. So I met Andy, and we've started this Aussie PhysEd team, and whatever you want to call us, but our Aussie PhysEd group, and we've just gone from strength to strength. It's been the best thing we've ever done. So it's been able to really push myself, but the other 80 people we've probably got in this group at the moment to new levels in the way we teach PE. So, but yeah, huge mistakes made in that first year, I can tell you right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're not alone. What about with specific reference to tech? Can you think of any moments where
Jared, I couldn't
use something? And
can I be brutally honest, mate? I couldn't even tell you what technology I used in that first year of PE, mate.
Not even in the first year. Any time across your existence, yeah.
Yeah, probably. Do you know what? Probably not giving the kids enough credit, mate, for that idea of. I mean, these kids are brought up on technology these days, and you can be very quick to make the mistake that you know everything. And
I love it.
Yeah, it's about letting the kids go and letting the kids discover, because 9 out of 10 kids will be able to probably take what you're doing further and possibly almost know a lot more than what most of us teachers do these days. They, I mean, my 5-year-old son, mate, he can pick the iPad up and probably navigate it a lot better than I can, and I consider myself quite handy.
Yeah.
And look, we're not big ones for him being on it all the time, but it's a natural progression. They use it in the classroom, they use it in PE, they're using it all the time. It's just, I guess it's the way life is now, isn't it?
Yeah, we make these assumptions sometimes about what we think they should know, and sometimes our curriculum that we develop prohibits progression of them showing their true understanding. And I think you said a really important thing, that it is okay for a student or students to know more than you, and we shouldn't feel threatened by that, and we should put conditions in place so that can be thrived rather than sort of restrained. I think that's fantastic advice. I mean, what are some other lessons that you found along the way?
Oh, got me thinking there, mate.
On the spot.
It's challenging, isn't it? It's challenging these kids. Are you meaning as far as technology?
Tech.
It's not what it's about challenging these kids. I think my biggest thing has been that the importance that PE can actually play on a child throughout their whole school life. I've been trying to push at my school the idea that if we can get these kids into PE, get them active, get them thinking throughout a PE lesson, there's actually research to suggest that this is only going to benefit them in their everyday school life. Mm-hmm. So, you know, my kids used to come and we used to play a game, and it is what it was. You know, you teach them a skill, they play a game, and there was no reflection, there was no afterthought of PE until the next hour, the next week. And that's probably been the biggest thing I've learnt, that PE can be so powerful, and we can have these kids thinking so deeply throughout a PE session about anything, about the way a game works, about all sorts of things. And that can be really powerful, and that can be taken back to the classroom and used as a skill back in the classroom. And that's probably one thing I've noticed, and one thing that's starting to probably shine in my school at the moment, that this is starting to work. There actually is validation behind the way we're teaching PE at the moment.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that depth is something that is a noticeable change in the way that people are delivering, and you know, there's more to it than what we may have done in the past. I mean, from, you know, values like you've mentioned, and having an understanding of why we're doing things, because to be physically literate for life, it's not just about the movement part. You've got to have this other factor, which is the why and how, and
absolutely
the knowledge part. So I think we are starting to see more PhysEd programs treating it more like a classroom rather than just a place where they go to, you know, let off steam and run around.
Absolutely, Jared, absolutely. And that comes through the collaboration. I mean, you've only got to look at Twitter, and that was another new thing for me. You know, that was a big wide world for me when Andy Hare introduced me to Twitter. But the collaboration and the things you learn from platforms like Twitter and Voxer are just, mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing.
For sure. I mean, it's come a long way. I still remember logging onto Twitter in 2008 and sending the first tweets, and no PhysEd teachers were connected.
Wow.
It was a very different environment. And I mean, still, it was the vast majority of people who listen to this podcast and email me, etc., aren't connected, and that's fine. I mean, but there are very easy ways to get connected now, and Twitter's a great place to start.
Absolutely.
At a depth and a pace that suits you. You don't have to be following everyone. You don't have to be on there 24/7, but it is a great way to connect with fresh ideas. So are you finding that Twitter and Voxer are the places that you hang out most, or is there a few others?
Oh, look, Voxer's probably my main port of call at the moment. It's Andy Hare and I, look, it was Andy's idea, but we had a group of Aussie PhysEd teachers about probably, and I know Christina spoke about this with you last week, but we started humbly with 3 teachers in that Voxer group, probably about almost 12 months ago now. Mm-hmm. And that was Sean DeMorton, Andy Hare and myself. And we brought another bloke in, Daniel Zito, probably about a month into it. And we're going now about 80 strong with teachers from all over Australia. Andy Vasili's part of that group. I know, Jared, you've just joined the group recently. So that's going really strong. That's probably been the main platform. But, look, Twitter's probably been a big one for me as well. So, look, Facebook, just your usuals. For me, I have a young family, so it's trying to make sure that work-life balance is still there as well, and I think that's a really important thing.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. I mean, it's not really about the tool, but there are obviously a variety of different ways that PhysEd teachers can connect. So you pick the platform that suits you.
Absolutely.
The thing that resonates with you, whether it's voice like Voxer or whether you want to just follow along with some messages. But you don't have to be alone anymore. I think that's the real thing that you're getting across. It's
absolutely.
There's no need. So where do you guys tend to write your ideas? Do you have a website or something that people can go and check out?
Yeah, so Andy and I, we have a website, asquaredphysed.com, that we post to. Andy obviously has his own Mr. Hare's PhysEd Weebly, and we've just started an Aussie PhysEd Weebly, which is just sort of kicking off the ground as we speak. So, but most of the work I do with Andy Hare is posted to asquaredphysed.com. So, yeah.
Perfect stuff. So that's the best way to wrap up the show. For anyone listening, you can head along to thepegeek.com/71 for a full word-for-word transcript of today's show, and as well as links to all the resources and websites mentioned today by Arron. So that'll include everything if you want to go back and check it out. Thanks again, Arron, for stopping by.
It's been a pleasure, Jared. I really appreciate you giving me the time.
No, always good to have the Aussie PhysEd crew on.
Fantastic, mate. Thank you.
We'll speak soon.
Will do. Thanks, mate.